Consider for a moment the storms that rise within you, the sudden swell of anger, fear, or grief, and the ease with which they seem to seize the mind. Yet pause, for these are not commands. They are visitors, passing through the halls of your thoughts, and they carry no authority unless you grant it. To yield to them is to surrender the citadel of your reason to forces outside yourself. There is a quiet power in restraint, a strength not visible to the world, yet profound in its effect. When provocation comes, when insult or misfortune presses upon your spirit, you are not obliged to respond as the moment demands. Instead, observe. See the emotion as it arises, mark its shape and its force, and let your reason stand firm, as a sentinel unmoved by the chaos that surrounds it. Life offers countless trials not to break you, but to reveal your character, to show whether you will rule over yourself or be ruled by the whims of passion. Every insult, every setback, every frustration is a teacher if you will but learn. The man who masters himself walks through the world unshaken, a harbor in the midst of a storm, untouched by the waves because he knows the shore is within. To act with reason rather than impulse, to pause where others strike, to remain unshaken where others tremble. This is the art of not reacting. This is the discipline that turns fleeting anger into enduring strength, and fleeting fear into lasting peace. And so in the moments to come, let us explore how the mind may be trained to meet life with calmness, how the heart may remain sovereign over its own turmoil, and how through deliberate mastery of emotion, one may discover a freedom that no circumstance can take away. There is a tendency in men to believe that the rising tide of anger, fear, or desire is a signal that demands immediate obedience, as though the mind were a servant and emotion the master. Yet this is a misunderstanding, born of haste and of untrained thought. Emotions come and go like clouds across the sky. They may darken your vision for a moment, they may stir the winds of unrest within you, but they hold no dominion over the soul unless you permit it. Observe how often you have been carried into words or actions, later regretted by a force that seemed stronger than yourself. These are not mandates but impulses, momentary tremors of the heart. To think of them as commands is to mistake appearance for reality. Consider that in every instance of irritation, in every surge of indignation or envy, there exists a space between perception and action, a space where reason may intervene. That space is the citadel of the self, the place where true sovereignty resides. Do not mistake the mere occurrence of an emotion for a necessity to act. Let it rise, let it swell, and watch it pass, as one would watch a leaf carried along a stream. The leaf does not control the river. It is carried by it, and yet it does not define the river's course. So too with your thoughts and feelings. You are not their prisoner. You are the master observing the servant, the captain steering a ship through winds that cannot alter your course unless you surrender the helm. Every man encounters provocations, sudden bursts of irritation or longing, moments that demand a reply. Yet the wise man pauses. He recognizes the visitor in his mind, acknowledges its presence without giving it authority, and allows reason to guide his response. To react blindly is to let the shadow rule the substance, to give fleeting disturbance power over enduring character. But to refrain, to watch and measure, to respond with deliberate understanding rather than impulse, is to cultivate a freedom no circumstance can diminish. The mind that learns to distinguish between the rise of emotion and the need to act, upon it is a mind fortified against chaos. It is here, in this subtle mastery, that the foundation of strength is laid, and here that the art of living begins. There is a quiet power in calmness, a strength often overlooked by those who mistake action for authority and noise for progress. The world brims with clamor, with people demanding attention, with events that seek to provoke, disturb, or unsettle. Yet the man who is calm does not bend to the whims of circumstance, nor does he allow the turbulence around him to invade the inner citadel of his mind. To master oneself is to cultivate this stillness, for it is within silence and reflection that true judgment emerges. Observe the man who rages or flinches at every insult, every misfortune. His energy is scattered, his will fragmented, and his vision obscured. Compare him to the one who meets difficulty with measured breath, who holds the mind in quiet vigilance and lets reason, not impulse, guide the hand. Calmness is not the absence of challenge. It is the presence of mastery. It is the recognition that the outer world will always seek to agitate, to tempt, to confuse. Yet the mind may remain untouched if it so chooses. In stillness, the soul becomes like a deep lake, untroubled by passing storms, reflecting clearly the sky above. Each thought, each decision, each movement of the body gains clarity when the heart is not hurried by fear, anger, or desire. To achieve this calm is not to be passive or inert, but to act with precision, to speak with purpose, to move through life with a strength that is quiet yet unassailable. The man who has cultivated inner stillness can navigate adversity with the assurance of one who knows the limits of what can harm him and the boundaries of what he may control. He responds rather than reacts. He measures rather than yields. He observes rather than panics. And in this careful attention, in this deliberate restraint, he discovers that calmness is more potent than force, that patience outlasts frenzy, and that the mind at peace carries a weight of power that cannot be overturned by fleeting circumstance. It is here in this deliberate cultivation of stillness that the foundation of self-mastery is laid, and it is here that a man learns that to remain calm in the midst of life's storms is itself an unshakable strength, more enduring than any display of rash action or outward aggression. In every moment of life, there is a choice between hasty reaction and deliberate observation. Too often men see an event, a word, a gesture, and believe that they must act immediately, as though delay were weakness. Yet strength lies not in speed but in discernment. To pause is not to falter, nor to hesitate is not to yield. It is to allow the mind the space to perceive clearly, to measure the weight of what has occurred, and to determine the course that will serve reason rather than passion. Consider how frequently rash words and impulsive deeds create suffering that might have been avoided. A sharp remark, a hasty action, an unmeasured retaliation, these are the fruit of neglecting observation. The moment a thought arises to strike or to speak, let the mind step back and become the witness of its own impulses. Watch the anger, notice the irritation, recognize the urge to retaliate or defend, and do not grant it immediate authority. Measure its value, weigh its consequence, and let reason, not habit or fear, guide your next move. In doing so, one preserves the integrity of the self, guarding against the chaos that comes when the soul is carried away by emotion. Life will present provocation at every turn, yet it is within the deliberate pause, the careful scrutiny of circumstance, that a man discovers his true freedom. By observing before reacting, he discerns the difference between what demands attention and what is ephemeral, between what is worthy of engagement and what is beneath notice. Every moment of hesitation is a victory over impulse, and every measured response is a demonstration of sovereignty. The world will continue to press, to provoke, to distract, yet the mind that pauses, that watches, that weighs, moves with a precision and power that is invisible yet undeniable. This discipline is not learned in comfort or ease, but in the repeated practice of holding the mind steady, when instinct demands otherwise. And in this practice, in the conscious act of observing before acting, a man builds a fortress around his character, a sanctuary where judgment reigns, and where life's storms strike against reason and are repelled, leaving the soul unbroken, intact, and master of its own course. To observe is to claim dominion over oneself. To react without reflection is to surrender that dominion to passing whims. Life offers no guarantees of ease, and the events that confront us are often harsh, unyielding, and unexpected. It is the nature of existence that we will encounter difficulty, that we will face people whose words wound, whose actions provoke, and circumstances that challenge every expectation we hold. Yet it is not these trials themselves that define the measure of a man, but the way in which he meets them. Each obstacle, each provocation, is a mirror held to the soul, revealing what is hidden beneath the surface. To see insult or misfortune as a threat is to misunderstand the purpose of life's tests. The adversities we face are not enemies in themselves. They are instruments by which character is tempered and virtue is measured. The man who perceives this does not shrink or flee, nor does he allow anger or fear to seize him. He recognizes that difficult people act as mirrors, reflecting his own weaknesses or unresolved impulses, and he uses their presence to strengthen his resolve, to refine his judgment, to deepen his self-awareness. Every challenge, whether a sudden loss, an unexpected insult, or an uncooperative force of nature, presents the opportunity to act with integrity, with patience, with reason. To stumble under difficulty is to give power to circumstance. To meet it with composure is to assert mastery over self. Observe how easily the untrained mind succumbs to annoyance, despair, or resentment, and see the contrast in the mind that remains steady, that turns each trial into a lesson rather than a grievance. There is no shame in encountering hardship, only in failing to meet it with the discipline of the spirit. A man who understands that life's tests are neither cruel nor personal, but universal, finds freedom from resentment and fear. He stands firm in the face of provocation, and in doing so, his character is revealed not as a brittle mask, but as an unshakable core, forged by circumstance yet unclaimed by it. To encounter difficulty and remain measured is a mark of wisdom. To allow it to disturb the mind is a mark of immaturity. And so each moment of trial becomes not a threat to the self, but a tool for cultivating strength, courage, and virtue, showing clearly what is truly within our control and what is not, and teaching, with relentless clarity, that character is revealed not in ease but in endurance. There is a power that surpasses the influence of wealth, of title, of circumstance, and it is the mastery of the self. A man may walk through the world beset by chaos, surrounded by those who seek to provoke, mislead, or disturb, and yet remain untouched, unshaken, because he has cultivated an inner freedom that no storm can reach. This freedom is not granted by fortune. It is earned through discipline. Each moment of restraint, each deliberate act of self-control, builds the walls of a fortress around the mind, making it sovereign, independent of the whims of others. When anger rises, when fear threatens, when desire presses, the disciplined soul does not surrender. It observes, measures, and responds with reason, never yielding to the fleeting dominion of emotion. It is in this practice, repeated countless times, that a man discovers a strength far greater than that which is sought in the applause of men or the absence of hardship. Emotional restraint is not weakness, but a demonstration of power. The man who reacts instantly to insult or misfortune gives away his freedom. The man who pauses, who measures, who aligns action with principle, retains sovereignty over his own being. The external world, with all its turbulence, cannot dictate his peace, for peace resides within. In the midst of provocation, he remains still. In the face of envy, he remains untroubled. When desire beckons with urgency, he acts with deliberation. This is the practice of inner freedom, a constant training of the mind to obey reason rather than impulse, to elevate judgment above sensation. Every choice to hold back, every measured breath, every thought weighed before it is expressed, reinforces this sovereignty. The world may rage, yet the disciplined mind remains a harbor, a place where clarity reigns and the soul moves with purpose, untouched by external discord. It is here that true power is found, not in conquest of others, but in conquest of self, and in the realization that mastery of the inner life is the surest defense against the unpredictability of the outer world. One learns through persistent discipline that no person, no event, no circumstance can truly control him unless he allows it. And so, the man who practices restraint, who chooses the governance of reason over the tyranny of emotion, stands free, sovereign, and unshaken, a master of himself and a participant in life who moves not as a puppet of fortune, but as a deliberate, composed force within the ever-changing theater of existence.